Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of the People Progressing podcast. Today I have Shauna Dittl with us, who's going to give us her story. And I know this is going to be an inspirational show with what Shauna does and how she helps people. So Shauna, I always start my podcast by having my guests kind of explain where they grew up, what they did as a kid, what they like to do, some of the influences you've had over your life to kind of have led you to where you're at.
Yeah. Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. This is going to be great.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
I am too.
So I am from originally upstate New York, a small town called Lowville, and it's actually pretty close to the Canadian border. So if anybody's familiar with that, the Adirondack Mountains, it's very, very cold. I grew up in a lot of snow, a lot of gray days. So I really value sunshine and the beach now that I'm an adult. But no, I was very, very grateful to have two loving parents. I have two younger sisters. I graduated in 2008 from high school, and then I went off to pursue a degree in education. I've always loved helping people, and something that I didn't know about myself was that there's other ways to help people besides teaching. I think just looking back into my high school days, the counselors could tell you what you could be a doctor, a lawyer, and a teacher. Those were like the three jobs. And I was like, okay, cool. These are my options. I want to help people in a teaching capacity. So I went to school for that for less than 2 years, and I loved helping people, but I didn't like the idea of standing in front of them and speaking at them on specific topics that I had to teach, right? And so I was like, I don't know what this looks like for me, but I want to help people in a different way. So I transitioned and I moved back home, which was really hard to do. If anybody's ever left for college and come back home, it's like not what you want to do. And I went to a local community college to try to just figure out what I wanted to do. I ended up doing some job shadowing in the hospital, and I really loved ultrasound.
Oh,
So the
wow.
ultrasound program in New York, there's two of them, one in Rochester, one in Syracuse at the time. Only 7 people got into the one in Syracuse, and 25 got into the one in Rochester, which, if you look at all the people in the world, that doesn't sound like a very good number. Thankfully, my credentials, my good schooling habits got me into ultrasound school. So I got my bachelor's degree in medical imaging from upstate New York. I loved it. I liked being depended on, and that's what ultrasound was. You really had to know what you were looking at, and the doctors relied on you, the patients relied on you. It was the level of compassion that I was seeking, um, and it served me for 10 years. So I did travel ultrasound for 8 of those 10 years. I've lived all over the United States. I've worked at 20 medical facilities. I'm very adaptable, very flexible, met some amazing people. And it's been an amazing 10 years. In those 10 years, I found where my passions collided, I guess you could say, because I started teaching ultrasound.
Okay.
I became a professor of ultrasound on the East Coast virtually. So I was able to combine that education, that love for education, that love for the medical field in one. And that was really what led me to meeting you and joining in kind of me starting my speaking career and stepping out of the hands-on work in the medical field and more about being the messenger for those people and being a voice and helping people navigate change in their life. So
That
that's
is
where we are
what a
today.
great story because I look at it first from the point of view that you went into college with one idea and you had the wherewithal to know that this probably wasn't going to work out. And you made that change right away. Where some people kind of stay in that doldrum, if you want to say, for longer than they should, and they don't get out of it. What is it in you that is not afraid to take these leaps of faith and leaps of into your passion, like you said? There's something about you that says, I can do this and I'm going to go for it. Even you don't know if it's going to work out.
That's such a powerful, great question, and one that I guess I haven't reflected on myself as far back as college. Because you're right. Actually, my initial thought process was my roommates like disowned me. I lived with 3 girls. They were like, "How could you be leaving us?" Like, I'm just like, I'm here for education. This is not my calling. And I
Yeah.
left. I lost a lot of friends along the way. I'm not gonna lie. But what I found in that one pivotal moment of moving back home and not being sure of what things look like for me, doors started opening because I was willing to close the one that didn't serve me anymore. And Was it scary? Heck yeah. Were my parents like, "What are you doing, Shauna?" Yep. And I was like, "I don't know, but I'll figure it out." And since then, I've been fired from jobs. I've been through a divorce. I've been a competitive bodybuilder that got really, really sick. And in every single gift that life gifts me, I'm able to step back and look at it as a blessing and mold it into what serves me. So, how I do that is just, for me, it's my mindset. It's how I look at every situation. Because if you can look at it from a way that this is working for me and not against me, or it's happening for me and not to me, you can mold anything into what serves you. And in closing those doors, you're opening new ones. And that's literally what I found in every season of my life.
Wow, that's powerful. I want to go back. You got me going now because you talked about adversity as being a gift, really, is what you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
All those things were gifted to me that I was going through. Not everyone can look at adversity as a gift. How did that come about? How did that mindset come about that I'm going to take adversity, I'm going to take roadblocks, I'm going to take hurdles and turn those into gifts and use them for my advantage?
I think because every time I fell, I found that I could get back up. Like I didn't lean on anybody but myself, and I never sat like, okay, so emotions last 30 to 90 seconds. That's it. And it's super powerful to feel all of those emotions. So, was I sad when I left my friends? Yeah. Was I scared when I filed for divorce and was like, oh my gosh, like maybe this was my person? What am I doing? Yeah. So allow myself to feel those emotions, which I think is super powerful in change, in navigating change. However, we have a monkey mind and we tend to create stories from those emotions and we spiral those stories out of control. And in doing that, we live this life that's not meant for us because we've created imaginary things in our mind that if we leave, it's going to be worse, or if we stay, it's going to be worse. Like you can, whatever you want to believe, it can be your reality. Like you choose that. So I think in all these stages of my life, I just accepted the emotions I was feeling at the time. I journal a lot. I speak out loud a lot. It helps me process. Again, we have a monkey mind. That's just how it is. And we're swinging from one thing to the next. We're never still. And I'm not saying you have to sit down and meditate because that's not for some people. However, there is a time to put the phone down, be in nature, be fully present, and experience what you're feeling. And if it's uncomfortable, you're probably growing, you're probably changing. It's probably a pivotal moment in your life, and you need to be there and sit with it.
Wow. That is so powerful. It's just amazing to me, your mindset over these. I call it the little man on your shoulder or the little woman on your shoulder
Yeah.
that are constantly speaking. I've done some research on this. And one of the things I read was we have like 80 to 90,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
Then another research article I read said, well, we're not going to say you have 80 to 90 because we're going to lump some of those together and say that you have about 6 to 8,000 thoughts a day because some of them are so similar. Either way, we have a lot of thoughts per day. And everything I've read was about 90 to 94% of those are negative thoughts. So we're constantly bombarded with negative thoughts, negative self-talk, negative visions. What's going to happen if this, all these types of things? How do you flick the little man off your shoulder? How do you flick that off? You said something that really intrigued me. Spend a little time to yourself, be present with yourself, whether it's a walk or what's something that you do that helps you with that?
So I like to say that rest is fuel for the living, right? We need to rest and we need to be kind to ourselves. And kindness starts with looking in the mirror and knowing you don't need to fit into a size 2 pants to be beautiful. You don't need to have a certain color hair. You don't need to, nothing about that matters. Did you hold the door for a stranger this morning? Did you smile at somebody? It's these little acts of kindness, and it's a ripple effect. And you will see, it's very, very funny how the universe works. The kinder you are to yourself, the kinder you are to others. And that ripple effect is what the world needs. So yeah, are we on this super highway of negativity? For sure. but you're also looking for it because you're conditioned to look for it.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
all you know. You have to tell yourself a different story because until you do, that's your reality. So, in starting my own podcast, when I started Waves of Joy, which I mentioned to you when we met, I was in a season of my life where I was learning to navigate the undercurrents of life. And I was sitting at a beach in South Carolina. It's my favorite story to tell because it's powerful. And I was looking at the waves and I was like, whoa, this is like our life. The waves, they come to shore, but they go back out. They pull you out into the deep end. So deep, you feel like you're drowning. You feel like you're suffocating. Whatever it is happening in your life right now, your life situation is not who you are. It's a circumstance, you need to deal with it. How you deal with it though is how you deal with everything in your life.
Yeah.
And so these waves go out, they pull you under, but what? You come up to surface and you come back to shore. The beautiful part of it is, though, you don't know where you're going to end up. So that's the embracing the uncertainty and being positive amidst challenging things because life is not meant to avoid, you're not meant to avoid the obstacles. Life is the obstacle. And the beautiful part is how you navigate it.
Man, so cool. So you're giving some tips to people on how to navigate the hurdles, how to navigate the I've said this probably on every podcast, and people are probably getting tired of me saying it, but people say life's a marathon. I don't think it's a marathon. I think it's a steeplechase. In track, a steeplechase is a long distance race with hurdles in it. And that's really kind of what life is a long distance race with hurdles. One of the hurdles you jump over, you jump into water, you jump out, you keep running and all that kind of stuff. And I think what people really understand that piece of it.
Yeah.
What people have a struggle with is how to keep running the race. How do I keep trusting running the race, if that makes sense? How do I overcome some of those hurdles and keep running the race? And you've given them some good coaching tips there. You've been through it yourself. You've been through the hurdles. You've been over the hurdles. You're going to have many more as you come. Do you meditate? Does that help you? Do you do
Yeah.
that for something
So
that helps you through this?
that it's interesting because I started that and I would get on a train, right? Get on the train of what everybody else is doing. And then I got off of it and I went back and I went forth. And honestly, I know it helps me. And research shows 12 minutes a day. That's all you need. And I love the Headspace app. So in the mornings, that's typically what I listen to. And if I fall asleep to a meditation app, it's the Calm app. So have I integrated that into my life? Yes. Was it every day for a while? Absolutely. Now I'm trying to be more consistent, right? The beautiful thing about life, like yoga, like anything, it's a practice. So don't punish yourself when you fall off the wagon. Don't punish yourself when you forget to meditate or you don't make time for it or you eat 5 cookies instead of the broccoli. Like that is life, right? And so like going back to that super highway, I was driving the other day and I'm like, we're all driving in the fast lane. I always drive in the fast lane. We pay the tolls, we pass everybody. We see the same thing all the time because we're in the fast lane. We're in a hurry to get to a final destination that nobody gets to unless it's the day you leave Earth, unless it's your death, right? So what if we put our blinker on, moved over a couple of lanes, smiled at somebody driving by you, looked at different scenery and slowed down a little bit? Like we're rushing to get to where? Like we are forgetting the whole process of becoming, of learning about ourselves. I know more about myself now than I ever knew. I look at pictures of myself in my 20s and I'm like, I don't know that girl. I never took time for myself. So I journal at least 3 times a week, especially if something's going on that I need to get out of my heart and out of my head. I definitely meditate more now than I ever used to. I just make it a point to wake up 12 minutes earlier and sit on the floor by my bed and meditate. And, guided meditation's great, just sitting there. The most beautiful thing is letting those thoughts come and go. I take a walk every single day, just being in nature. I come back with a flood of ideas on how I can help people. It's crazy. I'm like, I'm just in nature, but I'm
Yeah.
away from a screen. It's not a dopamine dump. It's just being present, right? So little things add up, little small habits compound. And honestly, that's all I've done for the past couple of years. And it's transformed everything about my life and who I am.
And I want to dive into a little bit of this because I think this is really important in what you and I are talking about. One of the things that, or everything that you've mentioned that you like to do in this world that fuels your passion really has to do with serving someone else. You just said it. I take a walk, I come back, and I figure out ways I can help people. I meditate, I figure out different things that I can do for myself to help people,
Hmm.
to do all that. I think what fuels our purpose and our passion is when we serve others. I always tell people you find your purpose when your purpose is greater than yourself. As
Absolutely.
you've gone through this thing called life, if you've gone through the different things of leaving school and going back to this school and going into doing ultrasounds and now the bodybuilding and now doing what you're doing, we'll get to that in here in a minute. How much does that play in where you're going and fueling your passion, the ability to be able to serve others in what you do?
In showing up for myself, I can be kind and patient and understanding and a better listener for anybody else out there. I get cold Instagram messages all the time from people that are just like, "You're so positive, you're such a ray of sunshine." And this all it is me showing up for me before I can show up for you. Like they always say, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So, in taking care of yourself and spending a few more minutes, I get it. There's people, single moms out there, single dads, kids running around, working three jobs. I've done it. The burnout, insane, right? But if you can take care of yourself first, I will go back and say that meditation is something that I prioritize more now than ever because I feel like last year it truly saved my life. I went to Jamaica by myself for 10 days and I was drugged, and in being drugged, I was paralyzed from the neck down. The only thing I could do was move my eyes. And was I in safe, like, was I in care when this was happening? Yeah. But I was alone at a resort in Jamaica and they were taking care of me. But for 5 hours, all I could do was breathe and control my thoughts and think about my breath. And in doing that, in your everyday life, you can respond instead of react. And can you imagine how different the world would be if we just responded, if we took a pause, like took a pause between the stimulus and the reaction, how different life would be. So small things like that add up and you'll see it transform in your life, but it starts with you. We're so quick to point fingers, and ultimately it's a journey of becoming who you are and living out your purpose, and we're all unique. I say we're all puzzle pieces, right?
Yeah, yeah,
How boring would it be if we were all the same puzzle
yeah,
piece,
yeah. we
you know?
we all have our own special gifts, we have our own special abilities, and we all have a purpose. And I want to go back to something you said earlier too, driving in the fast lane. It was so fascinating when you said that, because you said turn the blinker on, get over in the slow lane, and start recognizing things. Start seeing things. And to me, that's gratitude.
Yeah.
Slow your life down so that you can see the scenery. So you can, maybe you see a deer on the side of the road that you would never see because you're going so fast down the fast lane, you never do. Or you see something in a mountain that you've never seen. And then allow yourself to be grateful for being able to see that, be there, and so forth. How do we slow down?
Yeah. It's it's in making time for yourself, in setting alarms on your phone, in drawing boundaries. I really think boundaries are not meant to keep people out. They're meant to keep you in. Keep you in line with yourself, in line with your purpose, in line with where you're going. We are so easily distracted. Like you said, all the thoughts we think all of the time. But in being mindful and self-aware, practicing gratitude, I mean, every day I always say, some people didn't wake up today. It's a great day no matter what happens. I said that on the day I got fired. I said that on the day I filed for divorce. I said that when I was drugged in Jamaica when I could speak again. Not many people can say that, but I want more people to say that, which is why I do what I do. Because I feel like if you can show up and navigate what life gives you, you can enjoy all years of your life, because ultimately nobody knows when the last day is going to be. So what are we rushing to? Why are we rushing
Yeah.
somewhere? We don't know where we have no idea where we're going, but we're missing our lives. And I read a book recently called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And ultimately,
Oh, wow.
It's a very good book. But happiness and connection and not working so much, those were all top things. And what do? We work ourselves to death. We make no time for connecting with new people or people that are already in our lives. How often do we lose somebody or somebody moves a million miles away and we're like, man, I wish I would have made time for coffee with them. They asked me how many times. So making time for stuff that doesn't seem like it matters way more than anything else, honestly. And if we can put that in front, we can live a very, very beautiful life.
I also say this too. I'm going to add a little bit to that. When you're saying this, it's so profound that it's also taking the time to enjoy where you're at while you're there. Not every job's going to be perfect for you. Not every relationship's going to be perfect. Not every whatever is going to be perfect. But are you able to pull out the good things in those situations and focus on those and not focus so much on the negative things in those situations? I go to work, I have a bad boss. Okay, but maybe you have 6 coworkers that you love being with. So can you focus on that instead of just focusing on I have to go to work to a bad boss? Those little things that we look at sometimes, and we focus on the wrong things instead of the good things that can bring joy to our life. And sometimes I think when you're in that fast lane, like you were talking about, you're really making me think here. This is awesome. That when you're in that fast lane, sometimes you overlook the good. And like you said earlier, you're just so programmed to focus on the negative that you're going so fast that you don't have time to look at the good. You don't give yourself a chance.
You miss it all. You can walk the same walk every single morning and choose to see something different if you pay
Yeah.
attention. Yeah,
Wow. Let's get into what you're doing now.
okay.
You've kind of transitioned again. I'm going to read something. It says her passion to improve the mental, spiritual, and physical well-being of her clients radiates through everything she does. Tell me about that.
That's a testimony. Sounds like a testimonial.
It's pretty cool.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it stuck out to me huge because again, that's complete service to others. And it's helping people with their mental, spiritual, and physical well-being is amazing to me. So tell me about it.
Well, it's interesting because when I left, I've left the medical field a couple times, not fully, but just went kind of per diem when I started my own training and nutrition business. So I'm a personal trainer and also a nutritionist. So I was like, okay, I want to help people reach their fitness goals. What I found with my sessions in person, this was in San Diego, was that people may have this physical goal of losing 20, 30 pounds or being healthier, but ultimately they were coming to me and they were leaving their 9 to 5 job to start a real estate business. They were leaving their unhealthy relationships. All these things that I'm like, am I a therapist? Like, why are these people like, am I a mindset coach? What is this? And so what all of my clients taught me was how I connected with them. They this profound thing that stuck with me was that I'm a human soul magnet, and that I can pull out your superpowers, your superhero. Like I can see the good in you and any part of you, and pull out kind of what you're here to be doing. And so that really resonated with me. And I think the big thing with a lot of my testimonials and feedback was that I was a competitive bodybuilder for 7 years, and so my clients would get me 10 days before a show. And if anybody knows anything about bodybuilding, you have very little food at that point. You're exhausted. You're doing hours of cardio. So I wanted to show up at 30%, but I'd show up at 200%. And I didn't realize I was doing that, but I love them so much and I wanted to show up for them so much and help them so much that it didn't matter how I was physically feeling. Ultimately, I showed up for them. So they pulled out superpowers in me that I didn't know I had while I was helping them navigate what's going on at home because they were coming to me to lose weight, and ultimately, like I said, they hate their job, they're in a toxic relationship, they don't know what they want to do with their life. And so it turned into just compassionate listening, honestly.
How important is listening, Shauna? How important is that in what you do, but how important is it in everybody's everyday life?
If we listened more and stopped trying to think about what we were going to say next. We would remember people's names. We would remember their eye color. We would remember what their purpose is. We would leave feeling so different about the interaction. But we forget. We walk out the door and we forget because all we were thinking about is what we were going to say next. So I offer people that opportunity all the time. Say hello to a stranger. Know their name, know something about them, and get out of your own mind because in that moment, like they could be teaching you something profound, but you're in your head and you're missing all of it. And so listening is greater than any words that I could have to say if you ask me.
Well, and I agree with that 100%. I find people so intriguing. Everyone has a story. And I truly believe we can learn from everybody
I couldn't
if we
agree.
if we allow ourselves to do that. And I think one of the biggest things, I'll get a little bit into leadership here, is leaders or coaches or bosses or whatever you want to call them have a hard time with the listening part because of what you said. They're always waiting and trying to figure out what to say next to help people, to fix people, to coach people, instead of just listening to people first. I have a saying that you need to learn to listen so you can listen to learn, and to use the two holes on the side of your head more than the one hole in the front of your head is hugely important in us taking um, a stance of imagination, of curiosity, to help understand where people are coming from, and then maybe we wouldn't judge so much.
I agree. And I fully believe with all the managers I have worked with and bosses I've worked with, the solution to whatever it is you're trying to figure out are in the mouths of the people in front of you. But you're
Wow.
so busy with your own agenda on how you're going to fix it. You're not even hearing what the problem
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
which coming from healthcare is the biggest thing. Like, I don't want your money for disability. I don't want your workers' comp. I want to be heard. And I'm telling you, this is what's not working. So, as a leader, as a manager, as an entrepreneur, as being a frontline worker, I've done it all. Like, I've been in
Yeah.
every position. I've recognized that if you listen and you step back, people are telling you exactly what you need to hear, what needs to be done. And until we break down that wall and take the earplugs out, there can't be any navigating change.
So, in what you do now, let's say I come to you and I say, this will be kind of weird, but I just say, fix me. I'm not eating right. I want to get in better shape. All those different kind of things. What does Shauna tell me first?
So as a wellness coach, I would say, as a fitness kind of professional, it starts with your mind. It doesn't even start with your food. It starts with your mind. And doing that for so long has transitioned me into speaking about emotional malleability. Now, a lot of people use words like being vulnerable and being resilient and happiness, and those are all under the umbrella of being malleable. And I like to use the analogy of Play-Doh. Okay, so you have Play-Doh. I have a speaking engagement coming up, and I'm bringing Play-Doh to this engagement because I feel like when you can physically touch something, you can relate to it. And you think about Play-Doh,
Okay.
and you're given this container of Play-Doh, and you take it out, and you start squishing it between your fingers. You can do whatever you want with that Play-Doh, right? You can mold it into whatever you want. But you were gifted one thing, and that was a container of Play-Doh. Now, you leave the Play-Doh out at night. It gets dry, it gets hard, it cracks, right? This is what happens when we don't take care of ourselves. We don't know how to pivot. We can't mold anything anymore. So life is going to gift you something ugly because it's going to do that. And instead of you being malleable and being able to mold it into what serves you, you've left it out all night, which means you probably haven't slept. You're not eating right. You're not doing anything for your mind. You're not nourishing your soul. You can't expect that cracked Play-Doh to do a damn thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I have the umbrella of emotional malleability when we're navigating change in our life. Like demystifying happiness. Like it's not a mystery. It's self-care and it's showing up for yourself. It's being compassionate. But I always go back to Play-Doh. because you can mold anything, but you have to take care of yourself to mold it.
And gosh, the way you explain things is so profound. It's so good. You got me so fired up here. I want to go into this because what you're talking about is choice. And I say this a lot, that I think the superhuman power that we have is choice. We have the power of choice. You can choose how you want to overcome an adversity or a bad situation, or something bad happens to you in life, whatever it might be. You have that choice to overcome it and, like you said, mold it so that it benefits you, instead of letting it sit there and crack and get worse and so forth. Talk to me about power of choice in my
So,
mind.
I have a feeling your listeners drink cocktails once in a while, and I like to think of it like this. Life is a cocktail, right? You can order whatever you want. The beautiful thing about this cocktail of life is you're the bartender. So you get to put in whatever you want, and what you put in is what you get out. So choose wisely. Are there seasons of our life where we're going to make that drink a little bit stronger? Yep. Are there seasons where it's only water? For sure. But the power of choice is life itself. Like, nobody's telling you, forcing you to do anything. And if you get to choose and you know what makes you feel good, why aren't you choosing those things? If you know that, right? So there's extremes to that though. There's anxiety, there's depression, there's addiction, there's all of these things, right? You're not your life situation. You're not your diagnosis. You are so much more than that. And that's the beautiful thing, is that if you work on yourself, you can become your own bartender, and it doesn't have to be what you've been told.
Wow. Again, the way you explain it is just amazing. I want to go here. You're working with a client, whoever that is, and they just have a hard time figuring this choice thing out. They have a hard time figuring out how to mold a situation into something that's going to be beneficial to us. They have a hard time. They're more comfortable living in that other way, the other letting the clay sit out and dry. And they don't know the other side of it because they haven't never allowed themselves to be on the other side of molding the clay. What do you tell them?
Do one thing different every day. Just do one thing. If you've never had a vegetable before, have a bite of broccoli. If you've never drank water at 2 p.m., have a sip of water. Whatever it is, you can write out a list, right? I'm really big at writing things down. Have something that keeps you accountable. But all we have to do to be better over the long run is do something that makes us a little bit better every single day. And your idea of better, my idea of better can be very different.
Mm-hmm.
You can't compare somebody's day 1 to somebody's day 10,000 with anything, right? That's starting a business, that's a relationship, that's anything. But if you can do one thing today that's different than what you did yesterday, I can't punish you for what you did yesterday. But now you know what's good for you. Now you know. Okay, well, don't go to the extreme. I'm not about the extremes, especially, like I said, coming from bodybuilding. There is a healthy middle way. And is it always going to be balanced 50-50? Heck no. Heck no. It's going to depend on the season of your life. But if you can do one thing today, those small habits are going to compound. And again, it sounds kind of silly, but look in the mirror and tell yourself how amazing you are. Just 2 months ago, I looked in the mirror, I was at a stoplight, and I was like, you're so amazing. Literally, this is what I did, right? Go through the stop sign, and I hit something very large, and I blew my back tire out. And I pull over, and I'm laughing, because it's snowing. It's not the ideal situation. I look up in the mirror, and I was like, you're still amazing. And so it's things like that. And so the funny thing about this whole story was, I pull over and I'm like, oh gosh, now what am I going to do? And I was going to yoga. That's the funny part. I was like, here I am going to meditate and stretch and feel good. And I just sat there laughing, and not even a minute goes by and this car pulls in front of me. And it's a whole family. And this guy gets out of the back seat. And before he got out of the car, I remember sitting there thinking, I asked one thing of my ex-boyfriend, and that was for him to teach me how to change a tire. And he didn't do it. So now I'm secretly half mad at him. The other part of me is like, oh, you hit the thing in the road. This guy gets out of his car and he's like, can I help you? And I was like, I'm wearing a dress. I don't know why I wore a dress to yoga. But he gets out and I was like, yeah, can you help me change my tire? And that moment, I learned how to change a tire. But I still told myself I was amazing. The situation happened for me. And now, anytime I see somebody pulled over on the side of the road and I'm driving, I'm like, I wonder if I can stop and help them change that tire because I know how to do it now. And I
Turned
made it
into
to yoga.
positive.
I made it to yoga.
Yeah.
you know,
Wow. And a lot of it's because of the mindset that you had.
totally. And
I
like I
mean,
said,
here's the thing I want to kind of dive into with that story is everything in that story you could have gone the other way,
oh, yeah.
right? After you hit the thing in the road and your tire blew out, all hell could have broke loose right then. You know, it could have been, why me? Why is this happening to me? It's snowing out, trying to get to yoga. Life's against me, blah, 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 blah. But you made the choice to say, I'm still amazing. Uh, the power of that kind of help that guy pull over and help you. Then you said, man, what a great opportunity to learn how to change a tire instead of, can you please fix this so I can get to yoga and not pay attention to how to change a tire? So you turn everything there into something positive coming out of the other end. Perfect example of what you're talking about.
I feel like we're vibrational beings, and what you put out is what you get back. So maybe I avoided a terrible car accident at
Yeah.
the next light. Maybe I was meant to meet this guy. Like maybe he's forever changed my life, and I don't even, maybe he just showed me how to change my tire. I don't know. But if you look at it as always something that's serving you, it's not that bad. We get so worked up about what? Traffic jams, 5 o'clock traffic. Well, then we get off the exit and we get a phone call that our mom was diagnosed with a terminally ill disease. Was that traffic jam really that bad? It's not. And so that's the beauty of things. I don't care if you got fired today. I don't care. I don't know what's happened for you, but it's happened for you. And in changing your mindset and being okay with not being okay, that's my biggest thing. Everything will be okay as soon as you're okay with everything. And that's a really hard thing to do. But you got to tell yourself a different narrative because until you do, you will relive the same day over and over again.
Wow. Want to go back again? Bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Just real quick. What did bodybuilding teach you or and give you that you've taken into your life?
Discipline, a lot of discipline. Being the 1% of the population that does that, that's a very extreme sport, especially when you step on a national stage, right? But it also taught me to listen to my body because I got very, very sick. I stuffed my intuition so far down, I couldn't tell you anything about my body. Um, I lost my menstrual cycle for 2 years. I got severely sick with hormone imbalances, leaky gut, SIBO, H. pylori. All the things you could think of were gifted to me. So many things. I met with this naturopathic doctor. Western medicine was not working for my things that were happening for me, and I was desperate. I was so sick. And I said, I don't know. I thought I was the epitome of health. I was so far from that. As a woman, you're not meant to be 5% body fat. You're not meant to be doing 3 hours. You're meant to hold body weight. You're meant to have a menstrual cycle. Like that's a sign of health. So it gifted me so many things. It gifted me shingles. I had a terrible case of shingles wrapped around my back. Worst case of shingles the ER doctor had ever seen 10 days before a show. My body kept talking to me. And what that taught me is to teach everybody else your body will talk to you until it screams at you, until it shuts down. And so it taught me so much about my intuition. I know so much about myself. I can tell you when things are off, I know. 7 years of my life, it was only about my physical, what I looked like. But inside, I was hurting so much. And so I realize when I see people physically, they may look great, but you have no idea what people are going through. You have no idea their internal struggles. And in realizing and recognizing that, you can offer them compassion and grace and love, not knowing anything about them, just knowing that we all have our own thing happening, you know? And I think that's carried me. And that I retired from that in July 2021. So it's been a year and a half now.
And you're feeling better.
Never felt better in my life. It's
Good.
interesting. So I got through all the gut issues, right? A year of working with a naturopathic doctor, herbs, rest. I couldn't even look at the gym for almost a year. after living and breathing it. And now I'm currently working with that same doctor going through a very bad case of mercury poisoning. They don't know how I got it. Again, life gifted it to me. Don't know what's happening, but my levels are astronomical where I'm having like neurological symptoms and stuff. And it's just crazy. It keeps coming at you. So what am I teaching you? I don't want you to feel bad for me. I don't want you to feel bad for you. I want to show you that every corner you turn, something's going to hit you in the head. And you should just let it hit you and laugh about it and figure it out, because ultimately life is all workable. Everything that you're gifted is workable. It's never happening to you. It's always happening for you.
Wow. I want to ask you this question. Everything that you've described today, every hurdle that you've been through, every adversity piece that you've been through, you've called every one of those things a gift. How much does it help during that time when you're making that mindset and you're making that choice to use it as a gift? Is the gift of being able to help others who might be dealing with the same thing?
A big thing that I pride myself is being transparent and vulnerable and relatable. And in being that, I share things that maybe a lot of people don't share. I have shared my struggles with infertility, not knowing if that has anything to do with bodybuilding, getting the test done, knowing people keep those things very, very private, right? And so I think in being vulnerable and allowing all of these things to be gifts for me, more people can connect with me, and then people don't feel alone. Going back to the puzzle pieces, we're meant to be in connection with other people. And in showing the highlight reel of our life, we're not connecting with anybody. We're literally separating ourselves and living alone on an island. And so I look at all of these things as ways that make me human. Like, I am so far from perfect, but I'm also okay with everything that's happening right now in my life, even if it's scary. And the most beautiful thing is, I'm human too. Do I cry? Do I have emotions? Yeah, I have to tell you, shingles, you might as well light me on fire right now. And I would probably just stand here because that was the worst pain of my whole life. I cried and cried and cried, but I never lost sight of this is happening for me. I don't know what this looks like, but this is happening for me. And now, if I'm standing on your stage and I'm speaking to people about emotional malleability, the first picture you're going to see is my back wrapped in quarter-sized blisters, because that happened for me. And now I'm a storyteller of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at these gifts as a way that make you different from other people, but also connect you to other people, you become the storyteller of your life, and people need to hear your story.
God, it's so, the way you explain things is amazing. Um, so just real quick, you're in Colorado Springs now,
Yep.
right? So let's say somebody wants Shauna to work with them. How do they get a hold of you?
So my website, my new website has just been built. I have a coaching website for training and nutrition that you can get a lot of information on, but it's not something that I'm actively running anymore. So I would love to give you that website because it has great recipes, hormone imbalance, like things. But to work with me when it comes to mindset, emotions, and all of those things, on shaunadittl.com, there is, you can book a speaking engagement, you can book a group coaching session. You can reach out to me on social media. I'm happy to answer any questions. I just don't want anybody to feel alone in whatever they're going through.
Amazing. We've almost been an hour. I know it doesn't seem like that, but I think you and I could probably keep going. But I have three questions. I'm not going to say they're my last questions because things come up and I find more questions for you. But I wrote a book called The Three Ps: Finding Your Purpose, Perspective, and Passion. And I ask every guest I have on my podcast those three questions. What is your purpose in life?
To serve the pain I know best.
Wow.
Um, that's it. If you
What?
can,
Go ahead.
if you have a story behind something and you've lived it, you connect with it on a different level. So in saying that, all of those things that you're gifted make you very, very powerful to serve that pain. So as I go back to school, I'm going back to school to be a naturopathic physician, to be a doctor. I want to heal people the way I was just helped in these past couple of years, whether that's a focus on fertility or that's a focus on hormone imbalances. anybody out there can find their purpose in serving the pain that they know best.
Wow. Passion. What's your passion in life?
I think my passion is compassion, having compassion for myself and for others, because I'm able to live out my purpose and wake up every day and never have regrets. I'm 32. If today was my last day, I'm okay with that. I've lived so much life, and not many people can say that, right?
No
So if we have
regrets.
no regrets, and if we have compassion for ourselves and compassion for others, that's a life well lived. You're leaving your legacy.
Which brings me, you just made me think again. You're so good at that. If you don't have compassion for yourself, there's no way you can have compassion for others.
No way. It starts from within.
Yeah.
And I'm a giver all day long. I will give until I've got nothing left. But in doing that in the past, I realized I got burnt out very, very quickly because I never took care of myself. And
Yeah.
now I come first, and then I can serve everybody else.
Wow. Now, I always say that passion equals purpose and purpose equals passion. And what holds it together is your perspective on life.
That's
That's
beautiful. I love that.
that's kind of the glue that holds your purpose and passion together. Because I think for a lot of us, it's kind of easy, or it might be a little bit of a challenge to actually kind of figure out what our purpose and passion is. The challenge really is living in that purpose and passion every day with all the stuff that comes at us. Like you said, all the negativity that keeps coming at us on a daily basis. That's kind of trying to get in there and pop us out of our purpose and passion. What holds that together is your perspective on life. What is yours?
I think that's a great question. I think in navigating the undercurrents of life, right? Waves of joy, and you seeing things from a perspective, from a lens that's a little bit blurry sometimes. It's kind of like having some glasses on. It's kind of like driving through a snowstorm versus driving in the sunshine. It's not always going to be clear where you're supposed to be. But in being okay with not knowing, the path will reveal itself. And getting to the other side of the storm is not easy, right? I always say trust the turbulence. When's the last time you were on an airplane, right? It's scary. You're not in control. That's life. But if you can have the perspective that there's a brighter, sunny reality waiting for you on the other side, you can hold on tight through that storm, and you can be strong and learn from it and grow from it and be better than ever.
You can have a flat tire, say you're amazing, have someone come help you fix it, and come out of it by learning now how to do a flat tire.
Heck
And
yeah.
now you want to help other people with it,
Heck yeah.
right?
Perspective is everything. It really is.
Gosh.
Have a plan to pivot, because the only constant in life is change. And
And life's a gift. Everything's a gift.
everything is a
You
gift.
you taught
It
you
was a
taught
gift meeting you.
Yeah, it's a gift meeting you. You taught me that today. I am using that.
All
Um,
yours.
Unbelievable. This has been awesome. I got goosebumps right now thinking
Aw.
about you have so much to give people and so much to give the world with your mindset and the way you look at things and the way you can help people look at things and help them change their mindset. In 51 minutes since we started this, you've kind of changed my mindset a little bit on how I'm going to look at you had shingles, the worst pain in your life, and you called it a gift.
Yeah.
I just got done. I had John O'Leary on my podcast. John O'Leary was burned as a 9-year-old. Over 100% of his body was given less than a 1% chance to live. And he's now married and has 4 kids and doing wonderful in his life and has wrote a book and all this, that. And the reason I bring that up is because it's kind of the same thing. He had to get to a point where he figured out that this was all a gift. He had somebody ask him, if you could go over and do it over again, would you take it away? Would you take away being burned over 100% of your body when you're 9 years old? And he looked back at it and he said, no, because it's given me everything I have now. Same concept you have. Everything's a gift. And
Yeah.
you, who knows, someday down the line, you're going to be helping somebody that has shingles. You're going to be able to help them get through it.
Absolutely. And you know what? I can't tell you when you're going to figure out how it shows up in your life, but it will show up because everything in your life is connected in some way. We're not some disconnected. Like everything in your life that you've been through is connected. If you sit down and you map it out, there's a tie to everything. And if you can see that and you can show up and be okay with what you don't yet know, then you can serve in your highest purpose and passion and love people, and people feel that. We're vibrational beings. That's why I feel like we connected, right? We have really good energy. Something about just our eye contact in our conversation was like, oh, I want to keep in contact with you.
Yeah,
You
this,
attract those people into your life, the law of attraction, and it's
yeah,
very
it's amazing, and it is amazing how this is on my journey where I'm at now after teaching and coaching for 30 years. Just how many amazing people I've met, like yourself, and let people intrigue you. Like you said earlier, listen to people, hear their stories, because people's stories are amazing. And what people, and I think you said something earlier too, and I want to just say this, we'll be done. You said something about people just telling you kind of their good things in life and never opening themselves up to tell people your story, your adversities in life and so forth. We want to hide those and shove them under a rug. How important is that for us to live fully, to be able to do that?
I think staying curious about people is the most important thing ever. Stay curious about anything. And if you're trying to find your passion or purpose, think about what you do in your free time, right? In staying curious, you can connect with people. Everybody wants to tell you a little bit more than what they tell you. If somebody's talking to you about the weather, they don't want to talk to you about the weather. So be a little bit uncomfortable. It's okay. This is where growth happens, and ask a different question. Ask whatever it is that's on your heart. You'll never regret it, and that person will forever remember you for it. So be a little bit uncomfortable because, again, that's where the transformation happens. And stay curious. This world has so many gifts to offer you every single day. But if you've got your blinders on, you're not going to see anything. Or if you're driving in the fast lane,
Fast
it's
lane.
too fast.
Yeah, if you're in the fast lane. And I liked what you said earlier. Open the door for somebody. Smile at somebody when they drive by you. Say hi to somebody. Um, I always tell people this. I tell my son this. I actually wrote it on a card today and put it in his lunch. Make someone's day better.
I love that.
And I always tell people, your day will be better when you can make someone else's day better.
It's a ripple effect.
That's the selfish part of it. It's okay to be selfish, to feel, I want to have a good day. Okay, go out and make someone else's day better. Right?
Every day.
Yeah. And I'm going to say one last thing and we're gone. You said something about looking in the mirror and saying, I'm amazing. I want everyone to try this as well. As you're saying to yourself in the mirror that you're amazing, I want you to give yourself a high five in the mirror as you're saying that. Doing that act, I always say actions speak louder than words. So when you give yourself an act of a high five, you're giving yourself an act of doing something. Watch how much more powerful that little statement is. It really works. They've done studies on it, actually. So, Shauna, thank you for taking your time to come on our podcast. Again, this is going to help people. This is going to inspire people, and that's what we want to do on this show. So I appreciate you coming on, and I know this is kind of the start for you and I. It'd be kind of cool to someday maybe share a stage with you and talk some of this stuff with people and get people really fired up. But you keep doing what you do because you're changing the world for the better. I appreciate you coming on.
Joe, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. I really enjoyed my time today, and I hope somebody left with a little nugget of information that they didn't have before.
Well, if they didn't, they weren't listening.
Correct.
They weren't paying
all
attention.
Listening is.
Right. So thank you all for listening to this week's edition of the People Progressing Podcast with Shauna Dittl. And she told you how you can get a hold of her. Just a wealth of knowledge, wealth of positivity, change your life for the better. Thank you for listening. Keep progressing.